Today it is February 23rd of 2026, and believe it or not, Asians have officially joined the American race war.
I always tell people the day the Latino, African American, Asian, and other communities realize that they share the same oppressor is the day we start winning. Because we are the majority in this country now. We have the ability to take over this country and to do what is needed for everyone and to make things fair. But the problem is our communities are divided. They're completely divided. And I talk about this.
Obviously, I'm kidding, and I didn't want this video to be specifically about comments that Gene Wu had made, but I wanted to talk about the idea of voting in regards to race, because I think that, while he's the one that I'm kind of picking on for using this strategy, I think that more politicians will attempt to use this retarded way of thinking in regards to running for political office. You look around the world and there are other countries that are still currently practicing slavery and have yet to even make a law outlawing it. So this whole idea of oppressors, and obviously, I mean, Gene is really pointing the finger at white people, let's just be honest here, by saying that, if minorities vote in a block against the white people in America, we can overthrow the oppressors and maintain a sense of power over them. And I think this is really the worst argumentation that you could possibly use because it's very short sighted. And if you think about it, if everyone approached this line of thinking, think about how many minorities we have in this country. Immediately, Chinese people will go and vote for the candidate that represents Chinese people. African Americans will do the same thing, etc., etc. It goes on and on. So for him to even advocate and say, these three minorities that he mentioned, I believe it was like Latinos, African Americans, and Asians, to say that they should vote for the one minority that represents them, you're dividing already. You're dividing Americans by the 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 minute differences. I shouldn't say minute, but you're dividing Americans by something that really shouldn't even be in the conversation. As soon as you become an immigrant here or you immigrate into the country, you're an American. At least in my mind, this is my perspective. I don't necessarily have a problem with an immigrant that um, doesn't necessarily want to adapt. I know that's a very contentious topic right now. I think there's a very good argumentation to where they should assimilate into the country. But I don't necessarily have like a really strong opinion. But where my strong opinion does lie in the fact that, your interest as an American citizen should be with the benefit of the country. There should be really absolutely no question of that once you become a citizen of America. I think every other country operates that way. Most people, when they live in a country, they want the benefit for their countrymen and for the country itself. And this is also common sense. This is like a basic self-preservation argument here. You should want what's best for your immediate area, your immediate community, and the people that live around you. I would think most people have this understanding, but obviously this is the topic of another video altogether because, I mean, this is not very commonplace, sadly. But overall, what I will say is that anyone who is running for election that has the sense that there is an oppressor within the government and there's like a racial component to it, I think one, it's an outright lie when you look at the laws that are in place in the country and the way that America has actually stood in the face of, slavery compared to other countries. And also, two, it's a way to divide Americans at the end of the day and to distract from actually fixing problems within the community. American politics should be a way to unite us under a common goal. We should be able to unite under problems that we can fix rather than highlighting differences and examining the differences that we have and making mountains out of molehills. And I think that's been the mentality of politics for a long time. And I think that you can look around and see what, that has brought us. Has anything really been fixed within the black community by attributing crime to them, for instance, or all these other racial critiques that get brought in. I think it highlights the problem, but it's not a good way of fixing it. And I think if more people adopted the mentality of what would be better commonplace across the board for a majority of people, I think that would actually be a better way of looking at these problems that we're currently facing. And actually, it would be a better way to speak about politics in general because, as I've said earlier, the way that Gene Wu is talking about it, I mean, it's easy to see where once this ball gets rolling, the line of thinking that will go in place. And, you know, at worst, it's a distraction from real problems that can be fixed. So rather than looking at things like the economy or our domestic policy and our foreign policy, or what can be done as far as cost of living and the rising price of groceries and gas and rent and mortgages, you're focusing on trying to consolidate power and wrestle it away from these perceived oppressors that you have in your head. And it's just busy work, in my opinion. It doesn't fix anything. It helps your agenda, but it doesn't help everyday people that are struggling, trying to just live or have a family. These basic things that, maybe Gene isn't so. Maybe these aren't at the forefront of Gene's mind because he's thinking of how to wrestle power away from white people. But, I think normal everyday people, these are the issues that they want addressed. These are the things that need to be talked about, and these are the things that will actually make a difference, not fighting imaginary enemies or imaginary oppressors, as he had said. This is clearly a power grab, and I want to thank Nick Tran who commented on this and immediately recognized this as well. And I think he shows the mentality that most people who immigrated to America have. I think most people look at, they came to this country and they want to leave a better place than they came to when they arrived. And I don't want to fully take that away from Gene. Maybe he does have that aspect of within his mentality. I'm not a mind reader, so I can't say that he outright doesn't, but if that's the case, I will say that he's completely wrong in his way of thinking, and it's a bad way of thinking about American politics in general. But overall, if you have made it this far in the video, please let me know whether you agree or disagree, because I think that a lot of my other videos maybe were more lighthearted or not as serious, but I think this is a serious topic because I think that I think more and more politicians are seeing again the power vacuum that's going to happen, and they're using the internet in a way that I think is regressive. Bringing forth these ideas that are entirely short-sighted. Like I said, it might help their political agenda, but I think overall it sets a horrible precedent for people to be for horrible discussions to take place in politics. And I think they're not horrible for reasons where I think that I think it's gonna breed like racism or anything like that. Like I know that's obviously like a byproduct, but I mean there's not much you can really do about racism. People are gonna have their opinions. I'm more so I'm saying that it's reductive and regressive in the way that if everyone starts voting in according to race, like people are already losing their minds over voting, like waiting for Republicans or Democrats to take over every 4 years, like for this handoff to basically happen every 4 to 8 years. People are collectively losing their minds over that. To now add like another variable on top of it, where it's like, okay, we need the Asian, or we need like the Chinese Democrat, or like the African American Republican in office this time. It's like people are just gonna absolutely lose their shit. And even then, it gives an incentive for politicians to push these racial related laws because people will want to vote for that, and that on its own is just going to be another horrible precedent where I mean, does this even really need to be explained where people are just going to, propel their race higher and higher above others through legislature or other means and give preferential treatment? It'll just be absolutely crazy. But that's where I see the end result of this going, and that's why I think it was just so dumb for um, Gene to kind of talk like this. But yep, let me know in the comments whether you agree or disagree, and consider liking the video and subscribing. But please take care and be safe out there.